Well, the toast of the NBA right now are, well, I guess next to the Brooklyn Nets, of course, is the Phoenix Suns. All right, they're just fresh off a 123-98 drubbing of the Denver Nuggets, and Denver, outside of newly crowned MVP Nikola Jokic, Joker doing his thing, he doesn't really have much to work with right now. And for Denver to get back in this series, uh, Jokic is going to have to get some help. Okay, Jokic is going to have to get a lot more help than what he's been getting the last couple of games. But the Phoenix Suns, they're an even-handed attack. It's not like the Dallas Mavericks, for instance, where it's one particular guy that's killing you, and you have to key in on him. Like with the Nets, it's like four or five different guys, and they're led by Chris Paul, who I've always thought, number one, should have at least one league MVP in his resume. I think this is a guy that's been dogged by injuries, either to him or teammates at the wrong time in the playoffs. I think this is a guy that's unfortunately kind of reminiscent of Karl Malone and Utah Jazz during their runs. Almost always has had to go through very tough uh, opposition in his playoff career. You look back when he was playing with the Hornets, or what are you talking about? Uh, the Clippers, uh, whatever team, the Rockets. He's always OKC. Just last year, they had to go against Houston and almost beat them when they weren't even expected to make the playoffs last year. Uh, Chris Paul has always had to go against, for the most part, tough teams. And but the one thing about Chris Paul is wherever he goes, he elevates that team, and you see his value, especially when he leaves an organization. Where are the Thunder now? Where are the Rockets now? Even though I know they lost James Harden as well and Westbrook, but you know, this is a guy that is one of the best point guards in the history of the NBA. I've had him flirting with my top 10 for some time. I've been kind of loyal to some of these other guys, but I think after this year, I'm gonna have to put Chris Paul in my top 10. Man. I can't hold him out any longer. Now, are the Phoenix Suns headed for a championship? I don't think so. I don't. I don't think they're going to win a championship, but they could make it to their first ever NBA Finals. But at the same time, Chris Paul knows that the time for celebration is not now. It's not until Phoenix gets their fourth victory in this series. If you go back to 2008, when Chris Paul, I believe he was with the, who was he with back then? Was it the Hornets? I think he was with the Hornets when they were the New Orleans Hornets. They were in the Western Conference, and they were playing against the San Antonio Spurs, and they were up 2-0 in that series, and they won the first two games of that series by big margins. And ultimately, they blew that 2-0 lead, and ultimately they lost that series. I think it was in 7 games to the San Antonio Spurs. So, and we look at his history, Chris Paul, having been part of a team that blew a 3-2 lead, the Houston Rockets 3 years ago, and being part of a Clippers team that blew a 3-1 lead to the Rockets in 2015. I'm pretty sure that he knows the importance of closing the deal. And Chris is playing at a very high level. I think he's only had one turnover in the last 2 games. He is not the flashiest point guard in the NBA. He never was. But he was very good at getting guys the ball in spots where they could be effective. And he's one of the best floor generals and floor managers and pace managers I've ever seen in NBA history. And no, he doesn't do all the flashy behind the back shit, but he's just a solid point guard, man, a solid player. He's a very good outside shooter. He's a great mid range shooter. He knows when to get into that scoring mode if things aren't working. He knows when to facilitate heavy. He knows where to get guys the ball at, you know. And the Phoenix Suns are a testament to that. Phoenix hadn't been in the playoffs in I think over a decade since the tail end of the Steve Nash era, and look at them now. So, I tip my hat to the Phoenix Suns, and I also have to say this in closing: if you look at the Phoenix Suns, if you look at Chris Paul, it validates, at least my opinion, that Chris Paul should have been looked at more seriously as an MVP candidate. Yes, his numbers didn't blow you away, but then again, neither did Steve Nash's. One year I think he averaged 14 points and I think 10 assists or something like that. Those numbers don't blow you away, but they gave it to him. I think because his team had the best record in the NBA. The next year, I think he averaged like 17 and 11, but still, they weren't like Herculean numbers, and his team didn't have the best record, but they gave it to him again. So I don't know. It is what it is, but I know that Chris Paul would happily trade a regular season MVP award in exchange for a championship. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's why you play the game of basketball to see what the outcome is. But tell me what you guys think.